Oh, Jim and James, you get the star for finding me since I've been kind of not here for a while. It's so difficult to do these when I am out of the house before 8 o'clock, like 4 days a week. And then I'm so tired on the fifth day that I can't do this. And then I've been away. So, and then we had the Facebook problems, which seemed to be resolved. For some reason, I could share on my phone, but not on my computer. One of my big Corgi groups I've been in for like 10 years since it started. I had to rejoin. I don't know what that was about. I didn't happen to my other groups. I don't know what's going on, but Facebook is a mess. I can say that for sure. So, but my little page is still okay and I can still post. So here we are. We had a request. I think it was on an old post that I reposted, maybe even a long time before that. But a person wrote to me, and I did a whole series on pet hospice and pet loss, and she would like to hear more about what happens to a dog or a cat or a horse when they lose their person, not when the pet dies. And I have quite a bit of experience with this situation, and certainly my sister does as well. And she has adopted many a pet that people wanted to put down because this elderly relative had died and they do not want the dog or cat. And we recently just had a friend of ours from high school pass away suddenly at our age in the late 50s and leave several pets homeless. And I don't know if she even had a plan in place because it was so unexpected. So, the moral of the story is have a plan in place for your pets no matter what. Definitely talk to the person that you might have take them. Certainly in my family, my mom or my sister or me would take anybody's pets if we had to, but it might not be our first choice to get like a whole bunch of them. Like, would I take 8 chickens? I could, but I don't know if I want chickens, but if I had to, I would take my mom's chickens. So, it would kind of make my life a little tricky in some ways, but it would also get rid of the ticks in the backyard. So, make sure you have a plan in place for where your pets are going to go when you are not here. So what happens to the pets emotionally? I have seen, pets grieve tremendously. In fact, I've never seen a pet not grieve tremendously when they lose their person. Certainly with horses, we sell them, we ignore their family groups. When I was in Canada making that movie about working with horses, one of the things I asked the person there, she has her horses in their family groups for their whole lives. And she agreed with me that it is tremendously difficult to break up family groups for the horses, and that this buying and selling we do from them comes from 1600, 1700, 1800, early 1900s, when horses were cars, they were property, they were bought and sold. We didn't care about them. We didn't care about their emotional lives. We didn't care if we rode them into the ground when we were trying to deliver Pony Express mail. We just wanted to get from place to place, and the horses did it for us. But we completely disrespected their lives. And so one of the profound things that I've learned about this idea about pets grieving for their parents is that horses really have a lot of grief for their prior caretakers, especially if it was a good person and a good family. And I see this particularly with ponies who, sadly their family outgrows them, their kid, and maybe that kid doesn't have a little brother or sister, and now that pony has to get passed on to the next family with a new trainer, maybe a new job. And it is so difficult for them. And we all know those ponies we rode at camp when we were kids or somewhere that were just sour and grumpy. And think about how you would feel if all the things, the humans that you loved in your life kept leaving you and situations getting worse and worse. You'd be grumpy too, and you wouldn't trust anyone. You wouldn't want to be friends with anyone. And so those ponies in particular, I've noticed, have really suffered because when you've got a rider like my niece, Gwen, who really loves you, respects you, and bonds with you. And then, the kid's 6 feet tall, so she outgrew a lot of ponies. Those ponies had quite a shift to a whole other kind of mentality when they went to new homes. And we gave them the best homes we could find, but it's still a hard adjustment. And certainly in this time, horses can go from being maybe a little kid's hunt seat on the flat type horse. Maybe they have to jump. Maybe they'll get turned into a dressage horse, which can be hard when they're not ridden correctly. It's certainly by a 13, 10, 11-year-old. It's really hard. So they have a real problem with that. And certainly when our dogs lose their people, I work with a dog now whose dad died, and he was a hunting dog, and he did a lot of long walks in the woods with his dad. He did some hunting with his dad. His dad was kind of sickly near the end, so he spent a long time just sitting by, and he's an older dog now. He's like 10, 11, 12. He spent time sitting by his dad, just toddling around the kitchen with him while his mom was out working and doing the yard and had a job and stuff. And so he had a really deep relationship with his dad. And when that guy left, the mom, who's a friend of mine, was telling me how he just laid by that chair for weeks wondering where his dad was and when he was coming home. And of course he had gone out several times to the hospital and come back, and this dog just waited. He was a pointer. He waited and waited for his dad, and his dad, of course, in this case, did not come home. Now, I'm a pretty spiritual person, and I really believe that spirits are around us all the time. I'm sure my grandma's sitting here right now. And I know that animals are more aware of that. So I'm sure that, that dog could sense the presence of his dad coming back to the house to reassure him more than the guy's wife could. But it doesn't help him get over the loss of those walks and those daily experiences he had with his dad. And that dog is really just not himself. He's much more afraid, and this has happened to Tristan when Comet died. He's lost his confidence, and this dog, the mom keeps a bed in the bathtub for him because he spends a lot of time in there when there's any kind of thunderstorm, bad weather, any kind of front coming through, even barometric pressure shifts. He spends time in the bathtub, loud noises, he goes to the bathtub. He also has a couple of other beds where he can go close to his dad's chair and, places where his dad hung out in the house. And that is comforting to him. But he is different. He is shifted. And, he still is experiencing that loss. And I'm sure, the poem, The Rainbow Bridge, talks about dogs waiting in a place, waiting for their people to come across the rainbow bridge so that they can be greeted. And I am sure this lovely dog will be greeted by his dad when he goes across the rainbow bridge. There is no doubt in my mind. And I know these are things that you can't prove, you can't measure, although we are getting more and more sensitive instruments that can measure heat and vibrational fields in a room and things like that. But, just because you can find a vibrational field, A, does that mean it's a spirit? B, does that mean it's the spirit that is the one that you are looking for? So, some of this is just, your intuition. But certainly our animals grieve. My sister has seen this in the dogs that she has adopted and the cats that she has taken in from seniors. I found a cat, and just based on her behavior, I was convinced that she had an elderly lady taking care of her in an apartment. She was the light of that lady's life, and that lady, spent hours with her. And when that person died, the cat left the window and left through the window and was wandering around, not knowing what to do or where to get food. And that companionship is just gone. And I had 2 different animal communicators say the same story. And that's how I felt the cat was acting. And I ended up being able to get her back to a husband and wife where she was the light of their life. And, they were the people that have shelves around their house for the cats to walk on. So that cat ended up in a very good place. And it's important for all of us to love animals. When we find or hear about an animal that has lost a person, to help ease that process for them. Make play dates with a neighbor dog if it was a rescue and we think its parents were killed in some way. And definitely make arrangements for your dogs to go to the right place and make that so obvious. Tell your vet to put it in the file. And, maybe have a place in your house where you leave information about the pet, any medications, what kind of diet the pet's had, and a note to the person or a couple of people in case one of them is not available, who might have to get your pet in the case of a situation like this. So there's so much I could say about this that I will be probably coming out with a book about animals dying and the whole process and people leaving animals here at some point in the next couple of years, if I ever have time to write again. But it is a huge and important thing to think about our connections with animals when we are gone or when they are gone, because these things don't just end because we've lost the physical form. These connections go with us forever, and there are many people that believe their animals keep coming back to them, often in almost the exact same shape and color and size, and certainly in personality. And animals are as attached to us as we are to them. And I know a woman I work with who has some pretty profound handicaps. She's had a series of border collies that just show up when the current border collie is getting kind of old or very sick and can no longer be her service dog. A dog will just come down the road. She lives in a very rural area, way out in the woods. A dog just comes down the road and becomes her dog. And, she, of course, has them chipped and, checks their collars if they have one to try to find the owner. And she never has found the owner for 3 different dogs. So where do they come from? It's a miracle. Our relationships with animals are profound and cross all kinds of planes and boundaries and spiritual crossings. And we are lucky, I think, really lucky that they choose to be with us. I mean, when I think about what horses have done for humans, I mean, we wouldn't do that. We don't even do that for ourselves, let alone another species. And, we are trying to take good care of cats and dogs and horses and rabbits now as a species. But there are so many people struggling just to take care of themselves in horrible places of the world. So we have a long way to go. Anyway, love your pets. Keep them close. That relationship is something that is unlike any other, and we are very, very lucky to spend time with them. Right, Tristan? Yes, I like my mom. He smells like cloves and cinnamon. But I'm afraid we're going to have to break out the cedar because we've had rain here for weeks. Look how dark and gloomy it is out there. No sunshine. The ticks are going to explode. So we may have a cedar corgi for a couple of weeks here because nothing works like the cedar. I've had a few ticks dare to crawl on him. They haven't attached while he's had the rose geranium oil on him. But it's making me nervous enough that I'm going to go with the cedar because I know the cedar kills them and they just have to sit on him a little while and they expire. So anyway, good luck with the weather. And I won't be back tomorrow. I'm driving up to Albany and we might even do a live when I get there. I'm going to see my friend Karen Tyndall. Actually, it's about 40 minutes north of Albany. She's going to help me with Tristan with his agility because the Corgi show is in only 2 weeks. Oh, 3 weeks? I don't know. It's coming up really soon. And I'm really nervous because we're showing in agility. And, I am not an agility expert by any means. We can do our little courses at our practice. I've never had a lesson at all. So Karen, who's worked with lots of corgis, she's had some of the top agility corgis in the country. Her corgis have gotten every single title you can get in agility. I'm really looking forward to her help. So that's where we'll be tomorrow. So maybe we'll be back on Saturday. I'll see you guys then. Have a good day.